gas in it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Diesel Creek. My name's Matt. We are currently standing on my Genie Z2545 or 4525, something like that. I actually got a really good deal on this thing from a friend of the channel, reached out and said, hey, our company has a man lift they're going to be scrapping. If you're interested, just pay scrap value for it. So I did. I paid $1,000 for this thing, and then I proceeded to drive it onto my trailer, which for $1,000 I was tickled to death with. So not only did I get to drive it onto the trailer, I proceeded to do nothing except put a battery and some gas in it and one hydraulic line for the first, I don't know, year or so that I owned it. I mean, and we had no issues at all. 100% functioned, no complaints. But after the first year, that's when things started going downhill. And pretty much this thing just sat around here last year with very, very little use on it because just some compounding issues that made it hard to actually operate. The first thing to go wrong was the, I can't remember if it's the telescope or the main boom up function. It would just start to bleed off on you occasionally. It would be fine, you'd be up there working on something, and all of a sudden you'd be like, I feel like I'm going down slowly. And then sure enough, you were. So either a holding valve or some cylinder packing has to be bypassing there. Otherwise, we would stay where we put ourselves. The next thing to go wrong went wrong all at once, and that was the rotation motor. So there's a motor in the end of the boom here that rotates the entire basket while you're up in the air, and it can pivot it from where you see it all the way around 180 degrees to the opposite way, but usually you run it 90 degrees to where it's at right now. But that rotation, you can kind of live without it, but it is nice to have. Seemingly for no rhyme or reason, one day I fired the thing up to go use it, and the rotation motor just started puking oil everywhere. So a seal must have blown out on that thing, but I needed the thing in a hurry and I couldn't not use it. So I just capped off the lines to the rotation motor so we weren't losing oil everywhere. And you didn't really have control over the rotation at that point. Kind of had to keep your weight where you wanted the basket, otherwise you could find yourself spinning out of control. So that was fun, but you know, I was still able to use it once or twice like that. And then the straw that broke the camel's back here is the basket leveling cylinder, for whatever reason, also let go. I find it very odd that these things are just letting go like instantaneously, because the basket leveling cylinder, I mean, it might have leaked a little bit, just a drip here or there, but I mean, as you can see right now, it's just dumping oil. It's to the point where if you take that strap off that's holding the basket upright right now, the basket will just go bam and fall over there. Now, when I first brought this thing home, as I said, all I had to do was put a battery in it and one hydraulic line blew on me. Well, I lost most of the oil that was in this thing when that line blew. I did follow the directions though, and I put ATF back in it. As you can see, it's not standard hydraulic oil, it's this red automatic transmission fluid. I used the stuff it called for, but I have this gut feeling like whatever oil I put in there is eating the seals out of things for whatever reason. I don't know why it would, especially because it's what it's called for. So I'm gonna do some more research on that front and try and make sure we don't have the wrong kind of oil in there and it's gonna cause lots of more problems. before we get too far down the road here. But ultimately we need to do a service on the engine because I haven't changed the oil or anything. It looked fine when I got it, and I haven't used it, you know, a ton to really justify a service. But while it's in the shop, we're going to service it. Up in the basket here, you can see the decal that tells you all your controls. It's looking pretty ratty. It's kind of hard to tell what some of the controls do. It's not bad if you run it enough to remember, but I don't. So we need to probably get a new sticker for this, would be awful nice. This joystick here is for the swing, so it makes the entire unit swing, and it's also your main boom up and down. There's a lot of hesitation in the control here. These are proportional controls, and something must be going wrong in this joystick because sometimes you'll start to ease into the swing and it should, you know, ease the swing around. You'll swing left and all of a sudden for the first little bit it'll swing right, and then when you push past that spot and go full tilt, then it goes the direction it's supposed to. So something's going wrong in this switch. I think I'm just going to replace this joystick. This one seems to be fine. This one only controls your secondary boom. Most of the time you're using this lift, you're only using this main boom here. This gets you up pretty far. This goes up almost vertical, and then it also has a big telescoping cylinder in it, so it'll boom you out pretty far. But if you need the extra lift, that's where the secondary part of the boom comes in. That's this joystick over here. Hopefully you guys can see it. It makes like a Z pattern and lifts the whole kit and caboodle up higher. It's a pretty handy lift. It goes 45 feet up and 25 feet out. So that does most anything I need it to do. It is super, super handy to have here at the farm, working on cleaning gutters on the shop, trimming tree limbs that look like they're gonna fall or something, as well as now that I have the house being built and we're nearing completion on that, there's gonna be a lot of gutters over there that are gonna require some cleaning pretty regularly with as many trees as we got around here. I do have gutter guards on this building, and I'm gonna put them on that building as well, but even with the gutter guards, you still gotta get up there and clean the stuff off the top of the guard once in a while. So as I think I said, it's a 4-wheel drive unit, which is nice for around here. I did have another JLG brand diesel powered man lift that was 4-wheel drive, but it was in a lot rougher shape, and I ended up selling that one to keep this one. I would rather it was diesel powered, but the Ford gas engine in here is not bad either. Starts right up, runs really well. So we're gonna give it a complete service while we're in here, and then I noticed that the fan belt here is slightly shredded and coming apart, so we'll have to put a fan belt on it as well. You don't want that thing letting go while you're up in the air and overheating the engine. Okay, well I hope you guys could get a good illustration of how fast that cylinder is bleeding off in real time there. That basket free tilted till basically the very end, and then it was just bypassing to go that last little bit of the stroke. I already have the lines pulled off of here because it was leaking so bad. I capped those off. So our friends in other countries like the UK are going to find this shocking, but most hydraulic cylinders Americans are used to working with do not have any sort of check valve in them. If you take the lines off a cylinder on like a dozer or an excavator that's, you know, sold in the US, you can just pull the line off and shove that cylinder in and it'll just blow oil everywhere. All the cylinders on anything that's meant for lifting people or certain other things like telehandlers that lift materials, those things typically have check valves in them, and they keep the oil from just bypassing. If a line blows or something, you don't want the boom to come crashing down. If you're in the man basket and you blow a line, you certainly wouldn't want the whole arm to come crashing back to earth. It'd be a heck of a ride for the guy in the basket, but it doesn't sound like a particularly good time. So basically the way these hydraulic circuits work on something with the check valves is if you want to collapse this cylinder and push fluid out of this port right here, you also need to show positive pressure on this side, and that unlocks the check valve and allows that fluid to travel in or out. So now that you know how that works, this basket shouldn't have been able to do what it does, and the fact that it was allowing the cylinder to travel without allowing fluid out of those ports means that the fluid was just bypassing internally. So if you don't know what the inside of a cylinder like this looks like, you're going to see it shortly. But basically there's a plunger in there, and that keeps the oil separated. So, you know, anything below the plunger pushes the rod out, anything on this side of the plunger sucks the rod in. And that fluid balance is controlled by, you know, your hydraulic valve block down in the machine. So let's knock this cylinder off of here, and then we'll tear it apart on the bench and hopefully go get some seals for it. Should be pretty easy to remove. Looks like we just have a couple keeper pins, and then we'll knock out the actual pins that hold the cylinder. Bob's your auntie, will have a hydraulic cylinder free. One keeper. Just like that, our cylinder is free. So with our basket leveling cylinder off, we need to figure out how to remove the basket rotation motor. And I'm not positive on how to do that yet. These are like little bleeder, these are bleeder valves from the side of the motor. Everything on this system has those bleeder valves, and I don't know if that's something to do with them having check valves, that you need to be able to bleed the air out. Typical hydraulic systems, purging air really isn't an issue, although I could see with check valves how that could be an issue. I'm not super familiar with the procedure on something like that, so we're kind of learning as we go here. But I need to figure out how to unbolt the basket connection from the motor and then figure out how to take that motor apart. Looks like we got 4 bolts here. I can get the main basket out of the way, and then I think there's some more bolts. Yeah, there's threaded holes here. So maybe the basket unbolts from that. I'm not sure yet. So, like I said, just figuring things out as we go here. All right, take a peek behind the curtain here. Doesn't want to stay up there for us. Looks like some sort of cover we can remove there. Ugh. I think you guys might have just got sprayed. Bingo! So you see we got 6 half-inch bolts around the perimeter there, and then we have a big, I don't know what that is, 7/8 or piece of stud sticking out here with a nut on it. And it looks like that goes all the way through, goes down here, so I guess it's a through bolt really. Looks to me like we have to disassemble all of it to get this apart. is one of those bolts that has you questioning life decisions for some reason, even though it looks like it should be easy. This is getting serious. Seems like the end of the threads there is boogered up or something, and it just won't let the nut come off the rest of the way. The nut's loose, it's traveling back and forth. I just can't get it to come all the way off. All right, so we'll see if this works. I've never actually tried this before. I just put a slice down through that bolt because we're in a recessed pocket here. I can't get the grinder. I would just cut the top of that bolt off if I could. But my theory, what I just did there, I was able to get the grinder in this plane, so I cut a slice down through the shaft of the bolt, and hopefully as the nut comes up, it's gonna allow the end of the bolt to kind of compress a little bit, let the nut come off. Just a theory. It didn't work. Yeah, baby! Yes! That is what success looks like. I doubt you guys are going to be able to see it, but the threads are entirely rounded out of that nut. They are junk. Oh man, that rattling. Oh, if I didn't have arthritis when I started. Whew, I got it now. Okay, I think we should be able to pull our bolt out of there, and this big basket mount's going to come right off. Come on, there we go. Yep, there we go. So it looks like if we just knock the articulation pin out of this thing now, we'll have this whole motor assembly free, and we can clean it up and tear it down. Man, that sucker's tight. There we go. Ha. Sweet. Sweet success. Whew. Man, I'm fat. I'm gonna look into getting seals for this thing, but I have a feeling that we're gonna have to send this entire assembly out to get professionally rebuilt. These more basic hydraulic cylinders though, we can definitely get packing kits for those from the local hydraulic shop. So we'll have to disassemble it and take it down there to get that matched up. All right, well, I just went ahead and I scraped all the heavy grease deposits and everything off of these parts. I'm gonna go ahead and toss them in the parts washer too, because they are just a complete mess. One thing you also probably noticed I did there was I drilled a hole right here in this web. And the reason I did that is because when it's in operation or in place, as it bolts onto the machine, it sits like this. So this area just becomes a catch-all for debris and dirt and grime coming off your boots because you're standing right over top of this. So all kind of junk accumulates down in this big pocket here, and then rainwater, if it sits outside, soaks into it and just lays in there, and it'll start to rot that area out. Now, the previous owners had made a pretty nice little mud flap to kind of sit over top of this area and try to keep that dry. And we're gonna reinstall that too, but I went ahead and I drilled a hole down here in the bottom just so it doesn't keep all that moisture sitting in there, and it allows it to drain out the bottom. Oh yeah. Well, this might not look like it's the safest thing in the world, and that's probably because I'm sure that it isn't. However, I think it's got plenty of factor of safety for our operation here. This is a boom support. It's ratchet strapped in here so it can't kick out. It is only holding on by about 3/8 of an inch down here at the bottom, but it's a solid 3/8 of an inch. So you can kind of see what we got going on here. That's going to support the main boom because we need to get under the boom and work on this cylinder here. Now I've got my special hydraulic tool thing in there. I want to pop that gland end loose before we try to remove the cylinder. And then once we have that thing loose, we got to figure out how we're going to get these pins out of here. I'm trying to only take out this pin and leave the back of the cylinder attached. There's really no reason to pull it out. Everything that we need is going to come out with the rod. The only fly in that ointment is we're going to be fighting the suction of the packing, trying to pull that rod out of the cylinder. So we might have to fish ourselves up in there and crack one of those check valves loose or something. But if we can do that, it should come right out of there. The only trouble at the moment I see is getting that pin out of here. We got to pull the keeper, which that's no big deal, but the pin has to go this way because right now we're blocked by this piece of the frame here. I can't even get a good whack on it to try to drive it out that way. I can get a glancing blow on it. So if it's not seized, that might not be bad, but well, there's a good chance that it probably is. So with the pin spanner installed here, I'm gonna go ahead and try to break this nut loose right now. This tool is the Amazon flavor, so I don't have the most confidence in it. Ah, okay, well, I'll shut my mouth because it worked. That was not too bad. But it did damage the tool. I didn't even put that much stress on it, and it still damaged it. See that? These pins are like threaded inserts, and they just don't have very much thread engagement. So you put any stress on them and they just kind of kick themselves sideways there. What a cheap piece of junk. I looked around, I couldn't find any good branded one of these. I'm sure they're out there, but I didn't see them. What do you guys think? Is this big pin gonna move? Well, I hope so, but I really have my doubts at this point. I'm legitimately looking at what it would take to get the mag drill and put a hole right here so I could run a drift through there. Get a good hit on it. Yeah, I don't think it's moving. You know what I find most annoying about this situation? Is that this is yet again another scenario where if I had some sort of a magical sky hooky lifting device thing that could just pick up that boom and hold on to it. Get it up above that, you know, panel right there so we could get a drift on that thing and knock that pin out of there. Man, that'd be wild. All right, did a little bit of brainstorming with myself here and came up with a workaround. So the limiting factor in taking this boom upward and supporting it was the umbilical here that runs down to the man basket. So I came up with an idea. We just sat the man basket on some barrels. Now I have plenty of umbilical. The boom can go upward quite a bit now. And that frees up our forklift to lift up the boom, because this support that I have here is fine in this position, but I have longer pipe that I could put in here. But the thing is, when you get it up longer, it's gonna get a little more unwieldy, a little bit more sketchy. I don't really like it. So my plan, if it works, is I want to hook the forklift to the end of the boom there. We'll try to lift it up or support it at least with the forklift while I knock that pin out of there. We just got to get the boom high enough that this pin clears up here so I can get a real drift and sledgehammer at this thing, knock that pin out. Now the only caveat to that plan is that the forklift bleeds off pretty quick. So if we support the boom and we're working on that pin down there, it's going to start to slowly lower down. It's going to get to the point where we can no longer strike the pin. So I did a little bit of brainstorming with myself and I came up with a workaround to my workaround. The forklift only really bleeds off in that first little bit of working area, the area that you use most with your forklift. When you get it up into the higher stages, it doesn't bleed off nearly as fast. So we're going to hook a chain to the boom and lift it up real high with the forklift. And that way the forklift is in some of the better sealing area of the mast there, and that'll keep it from bleeding off nearly as fast. Workaround to my workaround still has a time fuse on it. It's still gonna bleed down, but it's a matter of how much longer do we have to work with it in those upper stages. The good news is our pin is exposed now, so let me go grab a B&O hammer and a sledgehammer, and hopefully we can get this sucker moving. Oh, thank goodness. Well, when I first hit it, it seemed like it moved. The subsequent hits, maybe not so much. The got her on the run now. I had to put my back into it. Woo! I'm out of shape. The good news is it moved. Bad news is it is tight. Great day to be a lefty. You gotta get mad at it sometimes. That's as high as the forklift can lift there. And the pin just doesn't quite clear. Or I gotta set it down, shorten up my chain. Oh man, talk about taking some wind out of the sails. I get this thing free out of here. Been struggling with this thing for a while. And what do my wondering eyes should appear? As soon as this cylinder swung down out of the way, there's another jack cylinder in there that I didn't know about. Ah! I hope it's not leaking. It doesn't look wet. That would make me very happy if I don't have to take that out of there. There we go. We got blood coming out. This machine uses ATF, so it actually does look like blood. Let's let that drain out, and I'll finish taking this apart. So we're fighting this suction, getting back in there to the bottom of this cylinder to get to those hydraulic check valves is going to be a challenge. So all I'm doing here is using a ratchet strap and just keep applying the pressure, and eventually we'll overcome the suction. Oop, we're getting close to the end here. This is the tricky part where you gotta get this thing out of here without knocking over your bucket of hydraulic fluid. There we go. Not too bad. That could have gone much, much worse. The last cylinders I want to take off of here and get rebuilt are these two steering cylinders. There's one on each side. They're leaking pretty good too, so let's pop these off. Hey, a pin that actually moves. There we go. All right, pick Matt here. Should put that down first. There we go. Da-da-da! Yeah, cheap piece of junk pin tool. There we go. That sucker was tight. This cylinder's nice. It has a little port on the bottom of the barrel that you could just take out, and now you're not fighting all that suction. There. Ooh, yeah. Wow, this packing is just falling apart. It's completely disintegrated out of there. Not good. So this is the one off the basket. This is the basket leveling cylinder. This is the one that spawned the entire need to do this job. It is gonzo. Can you guys see how bad that packing is? Completely deteriorated. No wonder you couldn't hold the basket level for nothing. So that was the actual packing, the piston packing. The gland end is no better. Pressure seal's completely deteriorated in it. These other couple cylinders don't look quite as bad, but definitely need replaced as well. The main boom packing here doesn't look too bad. I think the gland end is leaking pretty good though. Yep. Blown out! Last thing I need to take apart here before we can go off to the hydraulic shop and try to get some seals is this basket rotation motor. I don't know if you really call it a cylinder or a motor. I've never had one apart. Now, I'm not 100% sure how we take this thing apart, but it looks to me like this is a gland nut, kinda. You got your two holes there for twisting her off. I have a heavy-duty pin nut tool. I really hope it fits this guy. It was too big for those other ones. Good news. Pin tool fits. That's good. Oh. So before we start yarding on it, looks like we got a couple set screws here that hold this nut from backing out. Threads are pretty boogered, so hope we can get them. Man, I hope we're not drilling these things. These things are kind of buried down in here too. I don't even think I could hit them with the torch really and do much. Oh, look at that. Backing right out. Wow. I did not see that happening. They also peened over the top of the set screw holes. That's why I was drilling them a little bit there. I'm hoping I can get this thing out. I don't have... Dang it. We were doing so good. I got it mostly out. It's right up to the top there. We got one set screw. I don't think there's any way around it. We gotta drill this one. Okay, well, I drilled this one out, I got the other one out. See if we can't get this thing done. Come undone. Man, I need someone to hold this down while I put some serious pressure on it. Oh, I think we need a little more heat first. Come on! Oh, we did get it to move. Look at that. I thought I felt it move. There we go. Yeah. Think we got it. Yeah. Woo. Ooh. I don't know what I was expecting in there, but helical cut gears were not that. Interesting. Yeah. It does look like just typical hydraulic cylinder packing, so hopefully they have that in stock down at the hydraulic shop. Okay, well, the way my mind works, I can actually kind of understand the way this functions, just now that I've seen it apart. And that's the part of wrenching on stuff that I think a lot of people, I don't know, I think dismiss themselves as well as people's ability. I don't know. I'm not smart in a lot of ways, but in some ways I can take something like this apart that I've never seen before and pretty quickly visualize how this works. So you've got these radial or helical, I'm probably using the wrong word. You got these gear teeth kind of cut into these pieces here, and they work against each other. So that's the center pivot. That's kind of like an intermediate shaft. And then there's these ones here that are, you know, mounted to the body. So the way this thing works is it rides on both sets of teeth, and the basket is attached to one side, and then this side is attached to the stationary part of the machine. So when you want to turn left or right, that just pushes this piston up or down, which when it acts against the forces of both inside and outside gears there, thus spins the basket. Pretty simple, but yeah, I've never actually seen one or thought about it until just now. Anyway, we got it apart. let's go to the hydraulic shop and hopefully they can help us out. Alrighty. It's a few days later, and the hydraulic shop was able to get me everything I needed. There was one seal that they couldn't get like readily available, and they had to have it custom made, and that came to a grand total of $346. Not too bad on a $1,000 man lift. I really can't complain about any of this. So the big mission now is we got to get all these things put back together. I actually did just finish pulling off the second steering cylinder. I didn't show you guys. We pulled the first one off there on camera, but this guy here, I just went ahead and pulled it apart. And of course it fought me to come, not off the machine, but get the piston out of it. Was a struggle, so you guys missed that. But what do we have here to put together? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 piston type cylinders and the rotational cylinder, I guess you call it there, the rotational motor? Sure. Anyways, we gotta figure out how to put that thing back together using all of our puzzle pieces here, but I think we can handle it. Right off the bat here, I see that the hydraulic shop was nice enough to label things for me, sort of. Got A, B, C, D. I think that's an A. Sure. That ought to help, although I don't think we could actually screw this up. Well, we still have the machine tore apart to get the hydraulic seals and everything fixed up on it, but while I'm waiting on seals to come in for the cylinders, we can turn our attention to this man basket. Now, as you can tell, it's kind of hard to determine what any of these knobs and switches do at this point. The decal is seen better days. It's in pretty darn terrible shape, and this control right here is what's supposed to run your rotate and your primary boom up and down. And it's kind of stiff. Sometimes when you're trying to do small movements with it, you'd just barely start to try to swing it, and it would go the opposite direction actually at first. So yeah, that didn't seem real good. So I got us a new one of those. The rest of these controls seem to work okay, so I'm not going to worry about them. But I also picked up a new decal sheet too. There's what the decal is supposed to look like, and now you can actually make out what all of these controls are actually supposed to do. The last place you want to be kind of second guessing a control move is when you're in a precarious position, potentially up against the house, or even worse, a power line or something. So good to have good labeling going on here so you know what everything does. We definitely have some wire nuts going on in here, which I don't like to see, and some non-original relays, but everything worked, so how much do you really want to mess with it? Who knows why they did what they did here. And I'm definitely no wiring guru anyhow. This all just looks like spaghetti to me. It is always nice when you can be pleasantly surprised how much something does not suck. I really thought scraping that old decal off there was going to be quite a job, but turned out not so bad. So that's good. Now we'll see how steady my hands are if we can apply the new one without botching it. I'm guessing these control panels changed over the years, and this is the only one that I could find that was the same control setup as mine. But there are a few differences. There's a hole that's not punched through here. Where's it at? Right here. That had a factory switch in it. I can tell that the hole was factory drilled. It's not like somebody did it later. And then there's these two holes that are punched out in the sticker here are actually in the metal down here on this particular machine. So I'm probably going to punch this one back out after the sticker is applied, and then I'm not sure about these ones yet. There's supposed to be two lights, I guess, that go in here, and I only have one. My wiring only accommodates one, so I'm not sure what the dealio is there, but I'll probably just drill a hole and put that light up there where it's supposed to be rather than cutting a hole right in this text down here. I did have to pull that toggle switch out to make this thing lay on here. So, it looks good to me though. I think it should all line up pretty nice. Go figure. I just trimmed my fingernails this morning and now I can't get the adhesive back to separate because I don't have any fingernails. Got it. All right, looks pretty good to me. These screw holes here are just a little bit off. We might have to do some trimming on those, but everything else is lining up nice. Okay, I like it. That looks much better. Now you can actually tell what the heck you're doing up there if you don't know the controls off the top of your head. Man, I timed that just right. I knew just when to stop. I don't remember what that switch does. We're gonna have to get the machine fired back up again so I can remember what the heck it does. Last thing I want to do in the man basket here is change out this controller like I was talking about. Not as plug and play straightforward as you would hope, at least as I would hope. Okay, well, I got the panel all buttoned up here. That was a little more involved than I was hoping. I mean, it was not hard, it's just a struggle to try to keep all those wires straight. Things aren't exactly factory anymore. They've been meddled with a little bit in there, so hopefully when we get to fire this thing back up, that control is now working, but I don't know, I'm a little apprehensive. All right, we are ready to put this guy back together. So this is the piston I was referring to earlier when I was explaining how the rotation motor works. As I lift this, you should see the red mark here come 180 degrees over here, and that's the extent of our rotation capability. So yeah, it's real close. Doesn't actually get to 180, but it's close enough for the man basket. But that's the way this thing works, is so our piston here, it's not like a conventional one, of course. We got packing that goes on the inside and on the outside here because it has to seal up on the outside of that housing plus against this shaft. So it's a bit different, bit unique, but still functions the same way as any other hydraulic cylinder. I believe this was the custom seal that we had to have made. You can see, hopefully you can see a cross section there looking across the top, it's bi-directional, so it doesn't seal up from one side or the other. It's designed to hold pressure in the center, and it has an O-ring on the inside for backing. All right, we got that line back up how it was. Doesn't seem to be too stiff or anything. Now we just need to, I'm gonna run a tap down through these locking holes again. We'll have to put a couple new set screws down in there. This bad boy's done. All right, we got those set screws set. Now they had taken a punch and peened over the top of the threads there so they can't back out all the way and let this thing slack off. Well, with the set screws peened over, that bad boy's done. That can be installed back on the boom. Well, with the rotation motor done, all we have left to do is your basic standard repacking here. So nothing fancy. I'm gonna set the time lapse up. We're gonna knock these out. Well, 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 we are coming down the home stretch here on the reassembly. I guess, maybe not. Once the basket's mounted, I'll say we're coming down the home stretch, but I have the steering cylinders mounted again. I was struggling with the boom cylinder for a while. I got it like 99% back together. I got to get that pin to go through just a little bit more, but I can't get a swing on it from where it's at. So I want to start the lift up and try to raise the boom to get it above itself, basically, so I can get an actual swing with the sledgehammer again. In order to start it, I had to fish a new serpentine belt on there because I had pulled the old one off to go get it sized up this morning. So I did manage to finagle that new belt in there. That was actually, you know, it's the stupid little things that you think aren't going to take very long. That took a while. So anyway, get rid of that old belt, and we can try to fire this thing up now. Hopefully there's not going to be fluid dumping all over the ground or anything, and we can try to raise the boom up. So it's been a while since this thing's run. Let's see if she's going to go. Pretty respectable to me. I don't see fluid all over the place. That's good. All right. See if the boom's gonna go up. All right, moment of truth. Is the boom gonna work? Please. I hope it works, because I do not want to get back into that wiring. Sounds like something's happening. It's gonna take a minute to get the air purged out of the system. Yeah. Oh, buddy, the boom works. That is good. I was really nervous. That wiring in there does not look the best, but it's also one of those things where it would take a much better tech than me to sit there and straighten it all back out. So the fact that I can just reconnect this joystick and it works again, that makes me quite happy. Just got to raise it up so that pin is above this other boom, and we can get it there. Well, when you can actually hit the thing, it makes it way easier. Just going to put a bolt through our retainer pin now, and we're done. Beautiful. 2 hours later, through a series of events that I don't even care to explain, the boom is down. We're here. The boom is down. This is quickly turning into one of those projects that, wow, on paper it looked like it was just going to go right back together, take 10 minutes, and unfortunately, that is always just the opposite. The jobs that I expect to take a while, those ones usually end up going just how I think they will. Anywho, it's time to hang our rotation motor. So we need to somehow hold this thing up. It weighs about 50, 60 pounds. So I need to hold it up and at the same time whack that pin with a sledgehammer. If there was some sort of aerial lifting device affixed to the ceiling, yeah, it's not 50 or 60 pounds. It's probably only 40. Not as bad as I was thinking. Oh yeah, well, I'm making a big deal out of nothing. This was easy. Okay, with this back in place, now I can go grab our basket leveling cylinder and get that pinned in here. That makes it a heck of a lot easier for bleeding out these circuits that have these pressure hold check valves on them. All right, I made a little bit of a mess here, but I got the lines reinstalled on this cylinder. Let's go ahead and fire the machine up and run it through its cycle, make sure it works. I'm calling that a success. I'll probably have to work it through its full range of motion a couple times to get all the air out of the system, but the fact that it's moving makes me pretty happy. You guys hear that air popping out of the bleeder there? Now let's try this rotation motor. If any cylinder, if I was skeptical of anything I worked on, I guess it would be the rotation motor. So let's see how this goes. Oh, it worked! I call that a success. Now I just have to figure out how the heck the rest of this went together, because it's been like, 8 months, I think, since I tore this apart. Admittedly, way too long. Well, now with all that stuff installed, I'm pretty sure we are ready to go ahead and put the basket back on here. My calculations are correct, we should be back in business. swing is going really slow for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that. It went pretty slow to the left, but it's going really slow to the right. I mean, we're just barely creeping. All right, the boom up seems to work as good as it used to when I first got the machine. There's a limit switch we always hit right here. Ruh-roh. Doesn't look like we have any boom down control from here. Not working. It was working from the bottom control. I don't want to go up anymore before I get myself in a bit of a pickle. Platform leveling seems to be working good. Platform rotate, also working good. I think I'm gonna have to climb down out of here to get the boom to go down. Kind of stuck up here at the moment. All right, so just when things were going good, not so good again. Trouble in paradise with our controller that we put in there, the eBay replacement controller. Shocking, it's not working exactly like it's supposed to. I did have full range of control before with the old controller, but like I said, just there was not a lot of finesse going on with it. And that maybe there's a way to adjust that out of it. I don't know enough about it to be able to tell you that. But now with our new control, the swing and to the left is slow, but the swing to the right is like ungodly slow. And we've got good boom up, but zero boom down. So I gotta dig up the manual online and try to read into this a little bit and see if there's a way to adjust those controllers, because I think they work off of voltage or resistance to voltage. So something along those lines. Hopefully I can figure it out. That's kind of above my pay grade. All right, well, I'm definitely no man lift technician, but I actually got this thing working. So thanks to ChatGPT, I plugged in all my symptoms in there. Said, you know, I had all the controls on my old controller, but it had other issues. So I replaced it, and now I'm missing these functions, and this one's really slow, and you know, this one doesn't work at all. So it told me there are little adjustment screws on here, and I had seen those, but they were marked with a red pen like somebody had set them from the factory, and I shouldn't touch them. And I think if you buy the genuine Genie part, you might not have to, or if all your wiring between A and B is all perfect, and ours definitely is not. So what you have to do to get your controls working right is kind of almost like tuning it by ear with a carburetor. You basically just engage the controller full tilt, and I just turned the little screw on the board here until we started moving and getting the motion and speed that we wanted. So there's a threshold limit. There's a threshold limit on here. There is a ramping setting. So that's the transition between, like if you just slam the controller all the way and up, it doesn't just immediately hammer that valve open and you go rocketing upwards. It slowly ramps the valve open so that you're not getting an abrupt movement. Pretty much I had to turn them all the way up, but we're working now. I'm gonna play around and do a little bit more fine tuning, I think, but we're working now, so that's a vast improvement. I think we can button this control panel back up and call that job complete. All right, with those controls dialed in, I think that means mission complete for revitalizing the old man lift, getting it back into service. And since it's back in service, we got work to do with it. I bought another row of lights to put down the center of the shop here because, well, you just can't ever have enough light when you're filming stuff in here. So we got the same thing as what I had, except these are 50 more watts, I think. And me and buddy Bob, when we did the electrical in here, well, when Bob did the electrical and I watched in here, I had him add an extra outlet in the center for every light run so that I could do this in the future if I needed to. And here we are, it's the future. The way the lights are set up in here now is pretty good. You know, if you were actually standing here in person, it's pretty bright. But when you're doing stuff on camera, you know, with a tall thing like a truck or machine or whatever, with the light directly overhead, you end up getting shadows off the side of the machine here, like this aisle. You can see there's a shadow that runs right down through here. So I'll put that center row in, and then in the future, I might, we'll see how they work out. I might be able to take these lights and move them over about 3 feet or so, and that can hopefully alleviate the shadows going on here. So I think it'll help quite a bit. Let's jump in the man lift and install these bad boys. Some of the functions are still kind of slow. Might need to take it outside and run them out to their max. I can't do it in here, it'll be too long or too tall. If you run the cylinders all the way out to their deadhead in both directions though, that should get all the air out of the system. I think we might still be suffering from a bit of that air. They go all out for safety with these little UFO lights. They got a safety cable on there with carabiner, as you can see. This hook has this safety screw here to keep it from potentially coming unhooked if the building would jump in the air and rattle around or something. You've got a jam nut on your threaded hook that goes into the aluminum housing, and then you have a set screw there that holds the hook from turning anyway. So it's like super redundant safety. Let there be light. Whoo, buddy. Yep, that's a lot brighter. Well, with the power of the sun installed, let's move on to the next one. I think this is going to make a huge difference in here. Guys, it is so bright in here now. I like it. I do think, like I said, the outside rows now can go to the wall about 3 or 4 feet, and that would do a whole heck of a lot about eliminating shadows here along the edges of stuff. So yeah, vast improvement though, great success. And the man lift, man, she's working perfect. Can't really complain at all about that. For $1,000, It's hard to do much better than that. There we are. We're stretched out up here, 45 feet up. I doubt you guys can see it, but we're actually looking down on the drone now. It's right there. Pretty different view from up here. This isn't even a big man lift. They have some that go up like 300 feet, I think. That's wild. Nice bird's eye view of the junk from up here, though. I actually like to come up like this once in a while and just kind of look over everything and get you a little better idea of how you can reorganize and use the space better. I'm really trying not to clear any more land at this point. I'd like to just make better use of the land I got. And with that, boys and girls, the man lift is done. It's not puking hydraulic oil anymore. The basket isn't just falling over. The rotate works perfectly. So I am more than thrilled with how this turned out. This thing is back to pretty much 100%, and it's ready for a lot of work that needs done around here. So having one of these bad boys sitting around in your arsenal is hard to beat. I'm really mad at myself that I let it sit here so long without fixing it. But anyways, guys, it's 1:15 a.m. I am overdue for dinner. So it's time to wrap this one up here. If you guys like the video, do me a big favor. Hit that thumbs up button down below the video. You know it really helps out the channel. Doesn't cost you guys a dime. If you would like to help support the channel in a little more direct fashion, you can head on over to dieselcreek.com, pick yourself up some sweet swag over at the store. That's dieselcreek.com. Link, as always, down below in the description there. But until the next time, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.